I'm getting chills from that. I am excited to be here. First take coming to you from Los Angeles. He's Stephen A. Smith. He's Max Kellerman. I'm Molly Karam. And we got a huge show today, guys, in case you didn't know.
Well, before we get to the huge show,
Okay.
let me just say this.
What?
I don't know whether to check on the health and the well-being of Max Kellerman to see if he is okay or to sit up there and compliment him and stepping out. Did you see that tie? Max Kellerman actually wearing a tie that steps out?
It looks nice.
Little bit.
What?
Little bit.
What?
You
Every
look
now and
very
then.
handsome.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm not knocking it. I am very impressed.
My friend.
I'm very impressed.
Thank you very much.
Fashion police
I'm
right
just
here.
saying, well, we
to
know
my
what
right.
time it is here. What's going on, y'all? What's going on?
You
What's
look
going
very
on?
Nice too, Stephen.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Thanks
it's not
so
all
much.
about you guys today, though. We've got Magic Johnson. We have Cedric the Entertainer. We have Doc Rivers. It is a full show, so much to get into. And, guys, we have a doubleheader today as well.
Yes.
We're on again tonight at 7 to 8 Eastern on ESPN, a primetime special. It'll be fireworks. Make sure you don't miss that.
Should I keep the tie for tonight's
Yeah.
one?
You can.
Are you changing for the next show?
No, look at how I look. What I need to change for?
Okay.
Please, I ain't changed.
I guess we're not. I guess we're not
I'm
changing.
rolling out like this.
Glad
all
I got the
day.
memo. Okay, let's talk about last night here on ESPN. We'll get to the Lakers in just a minute. It was not the start the new look Rockets hoped for. A lopsided loss to the Pelicans, 131 to 112. Anthony Davis dominated, 32 points, 16 rebounds, 8 assists. Meanwhile, Carmelo did come off the bench for the very first time in his career. He scored 9 points, and he calls the reserve role challenging mentally. Stephen A. Smith, how concerning of a loss was this for these Rockets?
It's just game one of the NBA regular season. There's 81 games to go. Yet I'm very concerned. That was some of the most abysmal, awful defense I have seen in the NBA in quite some time. That was just awful. The Houston Rockets didn't look like they could stop anybody. And I heard Mike D'Antoni talking during the game, first game of the season, legs are not there, except I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. And really, you could have put an APB out for Houston's defense, asked, where the hell were you? Now, obviously, I'm not going to sit up there and blame Carmelo Anthony per se, but I will say that his arrival, combined with the exit of Trevor Ariza, along with Luke Mbah-a-Moute, has really changed the complexion of the Houston Rockets. And I watched them last night, and that was just some awful, awful defensive basketball here. And if you don't play defense, if you can't, first of all, they can't play defense much worse. So they're definitely going to get better defensively. But if you don't figure out a way to somehow, some way resemble somewhat the defense that you had last year in Houston, my prediction is even stronger about the Lakers going to the Western Conference Finals. It's even stronger because Houston won't be standing in their way because they won't even be relevant.
I mean, how concerning was the loss? You really don't know about this stuff till 20-something games into the season, and then more or less you understand what the playoff rankings are going to be and everything. Not one game. That said, they couldn't stop.
They look worse.
Whoever Capello wasn't on gave him the business. I mean, this is a bad defensive team. Right. Now, we knew that going into the season. This was my issue with the Rockets. I'm not surprised by this. They will not be a bad team. They will be a good team. In fact, the Rockets will be a very good team. Because though their defense got better, really the thing about the Rockets is their offense. And Carmelo should help there, I think, in the second unit. Because he could be the focal point more in the second unit. Carmelo is past his prime. I said there was going to be a lot of pressure on him this year, Stephen A. He's past his prime. He's been past his prime for several years, and that's coincided with a shift in the way the game is played. Like his iso ball skills don't play as well in this league as they did in the league 7 or 8 years ago. So not only is he declining, but the whole landscape underneath his feet is shifting. The ground is shifting, making him even less effective. But they lost 2 real defenders, and we saw that last night.
I got to tell you something. I'm watching the Pelicans last night, and I made a mistake.
Okay.
I know they were going to the playoffs, but I questioned their formidability because I'm like, is Anthony Davis and who? This kid, E'Twaun Moore, you watched him in the 21 points he dropped. Penetrate into the teeth of the defense, dropping teardrops in the lane and what have you, doing what he wanted. Now, again, this is against Houston's defense now, which was awful. But I'm thinking the absence of Rondo hurt them and hurt them to a degree because Anthony Davis is there and who's going to be that facilitator. But the combination of Moore along with Peyton. Look, Drew Holiday only had 10 points last night.
Julius Randle.
Julius Randle.
Randle.
I bring up Julius Randle and his 25 points for this reason. Magic Johnson, I need an explanation. I need an explanation as to why that man's going from the Los Angeles Lakers.
I understand. I understand why.
I'd prefer to hear it from Magic.
Well, how many forwards you want on the team? You ain't getting rid of LeBron.
I know.
You ain't getting rid of Ingram. And Kuzma had a great rookie year.
I know, but Randle, man, when you got a workhorse like that coming off the bench, that's invaluable. I'm talking about off the bench. That's invaluable. And so I'm just saying, listen, it's 12 spots on the roster because you got rid of somebody else. I'm just going to ask them. But I'm just telling you right now, New Orleans, ooh. I mean, the size that they have in their backcourt with Anthony Davis being that monster, Drew Holiday being a defender who can drop 25 or 30 on you on any given night, and Alvin Gentry can coach. He can coach. So let's not forget that either.
Julius Randle was big. I understand. I think Julius Randle's actually a dangerous player for a team because when he's going well, you can get fooled into believing he's better than he is. But that doesn't mean he can't play and give you valuable minutes.
Right.
And those Wildcats there, man, I'll tell you what, in New Orleans, he's a good addition, actually, as it turns out. It looks early on. By
the way, we didn't even bring up Mirotic. Dropped 30, hit 6 or 8 3.
Listen,
this is a guy that showed up in the postseason,
when Boogie got hurt and they made that deal, in fact, even though Boogie and AD were figuring it out, the amount of money had Boogie never gotten hurt that you'd have to invest to keep that together versus Mirotic, who's just kind of a perfect fit with AD. Yeah. Anthony Davis, as I said to start the year, going to be the MVP, is off to the exact kind of start that I expected. 30-plus points, mid-double-digit rebounds. His team beat a good team.
Before we move on, really quick, I just got to ask you, because Houston almost beat the Warriors if CP3 didn't get hurt. I know it's just one game. How much worse do they look?
They look considerably worse defensively. They look like they can't stop anybody. And listen, when if your formula is to simply outscore everybody, that's not going to work. This is not Steve Nash with Joe Johnson and Amari Stoudemire and Sean Marion and those boys from D'Antoni's Phoenix days more than a decade ago. This is not that kind of team. This is Harden and CP3, and we know how big time they are, with a Melo that's got something to prove because everybody's talking about how he's diminished, and he's 33 years of age. So we've got that issue going on. And then you got P.J. Tucker, there's a question mark. Clint Capella is going to give you what he gives you. But you're looking at Houston now, questionable depth. And now no defense with a coach that was known for not caring about defense until last season.
Bottom line
is a problem. They
got blown out at home. Yeah. And couldn't defend.
All right, there it is. Guys, tonight is the beginning of a new era. LeBron James and the Lakers. Slouch by any stretch. Max, what do you expect from the Lakers tonight?
I don't think they're going to win.
And LeBron specifically.
I think LeBron is going to try to get his teammates involved.
Okay.
I think that without the shooters, I mean, listen, Josh Hart can shoot it. He's a good player, and they have other guys who are a little bit underrated at shooting. But you can see the team that Magic put together was LeBron James with playmakers first. And you might think, well, does that mean LeBron's, he's not going to be just hooking guys up to score? No, it means that he's going to be leading the way and showing them how to do it. And the basketball will be moving. In fact, I expect, if anything, they're going to move it a little too much. They'll like overcompensate for the idea that it's a new squad and everything. There'll be a lot of unselfish play, maybe even to a fault. So I think that's how LeBron leads. I still think they lose probably to a team that's played together more. Stephen A., what I'm looking for in this game actually is Lonzo Ball. And I'm going to harp on him as the key to the Lakers this year. If he is an excellent player, you think of that whole roster differently. And he can begin. Lonzo can begin. Whatever he does offensively, he can play defense. We saw this against Portland by the New Orleans team with Drew Holiday. Big, strong, defensive-oriented guard who really stymied Damian Lillard, who is the key to everything for those guys, right? If Lonzo can do the same thing, if he can play active defense whatever he does offensively, that's going to be a very good sign for the Lakers.
I'm not looking for anything from Lonzo tonight because he just got back. And we all know that, it takes a little while to get your bearings under you. If he hadn't been injured, that would be different. But the fact that he, most of training camp, most of preseason, he wasn't active with this team, I'm not going to hold him accountable for anything tonight. I'm looking for the guys that you brought in. I'm looking for a Lance Stevenson. I'm looking for a Rajon Rondo. I'm looking for guys like that to see what they're going to give you and how they're planning on being utilized by Luke Walton. Because guess what? When you're going up against an experienced backcourt like Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum, who carry this Portland Trailblazers franchise, then obviously they're very experienced in playing with one another. They definitely know how to hit big shots. They definitely thrive off of that crowd and that momentum in Portland. The Rose Garden, these guys are special. They're special at home, no question about it. And so when I look at it from that perspective, obviously it's going to be a paparazzi kind of atmosphere. I went to the Clippers game last night, and you had scouts and coaches sitting up there saying, what the hell are you doing here? How come you're not at the circus in Portland? Because that's what it's perceived to be. Wherever LeBron goes, particularly initially, that's what it's going to be like. So for me, knowing that guys like a McCollum and a Lillard will use this as an opportunity to shine, I expect big time games from them, and it's going to be real interesting to see how the Lakers are going to offset that. Of course, I'm going to pay attention to Ingram and Kuzma as well. I'm not worried about LeBron. I don't give a damn how LeBron does, because obviously as the season progresses, we know what to expect from him. And it's about ingratiating those guys into the Laker culture, those experienced guys that supposedly know how to win. How are you going to mesh them in this system? That's what I'm looking for tonight.
I understand that generally in terms of groups of players. The reason I'm focusing on Lonzo is we know what Rondo's going to do. Rondo will be a competent player until you need him the most, and then he'll be a great player, right, under pressure. We know what Rondo can do. He'll play defense. He'll organize the team. He'll be another leader on the floor with LeBron James, like a basketball genius kind of guy. We know what LeBron's going to do. We have a good idea what direction Ingram is trending in, and the degree to which he improves is what we're really watching, but we can see he's going to be a very good player. Kuzma, we already know is good. If he never got any better, he'd be valuable. So we get the idea here. The one question mark, really, is Lonzo. If he's no good, the Lakers are a solid team. They'll make the playoffs.
I just think that's a subject to tackle later on, not open and not.
I think it starts right now. Whatever he does on offense, will he at least be an active and important defender against Damian Lillard?
Well, again, you can say that. My response would be, I want to see what's going to happen a little bit later on when it comes to Lonzo, because that's when we'll know how he's definitively being utilized. We don't know whether or not how he's going to be utilized tonight, because, again, you're trying to ingratiate him back into the proceedings because he's been out for a while because he was injured. Once he gets back, you going to start Lonzo? Is he coming off the bench? What role is he going to play? What level of tutelage is Rondo going to provide? Or are they going to be really competing with one another? Or is it going to be a combination of both, which is more likely? All of these things that you got to play, you got to work into it. When we look at Rondo, the reason why Rondo, a Lance Stevenson, a JaVale McGee, a Michael Beasley, the reason why they matter, Max, is because all of them had question marks as it pertained to why did the Lakers go out and grab them? What was it about them? Because when you think about LeBron, you want shooters.
Misunderstood,
there you go.
Underappreciated.
There you go. And he's probably, and to a degree, he's right about that. But all I'm saying to you, is that when you look at this skill set and you think about what has worked for LeBron, you look at those guys and say, well, that's not exactly indicative of what has worked for him in the past. So it's going to be realistic.
That's an indication that he wants to play more off ball. Yeah. Or the Lakers think, or LeBron thinks, or they together believe, obviously, that to extend his time as the best player or among the best players in the league as he ages into his mid-late 30s, he needs to be playing off ball a little bit. And to that end, Rondo and Lonzo, Hart and KCP in the backcourt, Rondo is what the kind of player maybe Lonzo could be. KCP and Hart are redundant in a way. So you got 48 minutes in the backcourt of similar kinds of players.
We have to move on, but I will tell you this. We haven't mentioned two people nearly as much as we should. And you've mentioned one of them before, but we haven't mentioned them nearly as much as we should. We talk about those guys. KCP and Josh Hart are two guys to watch out for.
No doubt.
Because they can both put the ball in the hole, and at least KCP can play some point. Let's not forget that.
You know who could have been out there with LeBron? PG-13. Paul George was seriously considering joining the Lakers before he was traded to OKC, but he opted not to, telling Mark Spears of The Undefeated, quote, "It was 50-50 on deciding whether I wanted to come back home or if it was smarter to be in the situation I am in now, but it wasn't overstated. I wanted to play in LA. That is where I wanted to go. Had that trade never went down, had I played one more year in Indy, I would have been in a Lakers uniform." Max, talk to me.
Well, I mean, Paul George will regret this more than the Lakers will. Westbrook had KD and couldn't get it done. And anything Paul George can do, KD can do better. Like Paul George, if you're going to lose KD, you can hardly do better than replacing him with Paul George, another long, lanky three who can play both ways, the whole thing. But KD's better. So you're taking a lesser version of what you had, which wasn't good enough. Now, here's the other thing. If you have Westbrook and Paul George, I'm not saying you could never win a championship. If you could get another player as good as those two guys to play with them, good luck with that in Oklahoma City. You're not going to have the cap space. And secondly, free agents aren't going to want to go to Oklahoma City. They want to go to big, more glamorous markets. As much as people say, well, that's changed in the league and all this kind of stuff. It's a kind of, you know, with social media, with the proliferation of media generally and transportation even, where you play is not so important. You could be a big star in any market. Look at LeBron in Cleveland. Sure. So all they really have to do is hope that one of the best players in the league was born in Oklahoma City and really wants to play there, or that they draft him and he becomes a superstar. But with Paul George and Westbrook, they're not going to be bad enough to ever have a draft pick like that. It is, for Paul George, a dead-end situation if his point is to win a championship. He'd have had a better shot to do that with the Lakers, and he would have been going home, which was what he says he wanted. Maybe he didn't want the pressure of those things.
Well, thank you for telling the whole story and leaving nothing for me, because I really have nothing to add in that regard.
You have nothing to say?
No, because that's obvious. The fact of the matter is Paul George is going to regret this, because you're supposed to be in the business of trying to capture a championship. And it's not going to happen for exactly the reasons that Max said. In the end, what it comes down to is this. Paul George stayed in Oklahoma City because of his relationship with Russell Westbrook. Period. He's that loyal kind of guy. If you know anything about Paul, let me tell you something about Paul George. Paul George is a star in this league before that injury, and I still think he's a star, but that injury, that nasty injury from a couple of years ago with USA Basketball, that derailed him, obviously, somewhat. But make no mistake about it, Paul George is not just a star. Paul George is one of the classiest, nicest guys you'll ever meet. Here's why that's relevant. He's the kind of person that, yeah, his parents might have wanted him to go to L.A. His wife might have wanted him to go to L.A. But that relationship with Russell Westbrook means a lot to him. And he's a loyal cat. And because of that loyalty and that love and affection for Russell Westbrook, and by the way, when you think about Russell Westbrook, it's hard if you're a teammate of his. It's hard not to love him, because he is a warrior extraordinaire. And he's going to go all out, and he always has your back so long as you're wearing the same uniform as him. So a guy like Paul George would love it. I've known Paul George for years covering the NBA. He's that kind of guy. The problem is some people, he doesn't believe it, but some people believe he will rule the day that he made that decision, because obviously he's from Palmdale in California. He's always wanted to be a Laker. He was destined to go to the Lakers. Like he said, he would have definitely went to the Lakers had he never gotten traded to Oklahoma City and cultivated that relationship. And making that decision based on your relationship with Russell Westbrook may come back to haunt him if Sam Presti can't get enough to help them win the championship.
I thought it was also a financial decision, though.
Well, and this is interesting. Here's the irony of the league right now, right? The NBA is set up in a way that encourages players to stay with their teams. Yeah. So a small market like OKC is able to retain the services of a draft pick like Westbrook, trade for a guy like Paul George, get him to stay because they can give him more money, and also because of, you know, he likes it there with Westbrook. Here's the irony, guys. Where did Westbrook want to play? Where's Westbrook from? Where's Paul George from? They both wanted to be Lakers, reportedly, over and over again through the years, right? And because of the way the NBA is structured, they're not Lakers. They're Thunder. They're OKC Thunder. Now, let me ask you this. Are the Lakers in a better or worse position to win right now than they would have been where their two superstars were Westbrook and Paul George instead of LeBron James and whoever's coming? In fact, yes, it worked out. OKC kept their stars, and as a result, the Lakers are in a better position to chase championships than they would have been had they had Westbrook and Paul George and not LeBron James.
Well, my response to that is you don't know that. And the reason why you don't know that is because you don't know what Westbrook's arrival to L.A. would have brought with him. who's to say that somebody else might not have come with Westbrook other than Paul George? This is Magic Johnson that we're talking about here. And Magic Johnson, you never know. You never know. I'm not saying that you're definitively wrong. I'm saying you can't be definitively right either. There's no definitiveness to this whatsoever.
Who'd rather be the Lakers or OKC's future next 3 years?
Well, right now, I would rather be the Lakers. But I'm saying to you, based on what you're saying, you can't definitively say that the Lakers could not have had the very future that they're having right now.
Right. But if you were a betting man,
if Russell Westbrook,
but if you were a betting man, what would you bet? He's better off. They're better off now, or better off the other way? I think they're better off now.
Excuse me. Can I say this to you? If you right now, since you said right now, if Russell Westbrook and Paul George could have been in LA together with the rest of the crew that they have, instead of LeBron James, I tell you the Lakers were still better off.
No.
The combination of Russell Westbrook with Paul George and that team in L.A. instead of LeBron by himself.
You're missing my point. Wait,
I remember your point. I heard you.
No, you're missing the point. Yes, I understand, but if you pay those two guys, you're not getting another max player. You spent your money. I'm saying LeBron plus the other max contract you're going to bring in.
But you're saying plus the other max contract you're going to bring in. But I don't know if they're going to get him. I believe they're going to get it, but I don't know.
Again, if you're a betting man, how are you betting?
I'm betting.
He said he went.
But I don't know.
By the way, OKC
I know what
looked
Paul
pretty
George
good, and
and
they didn't
Russell
even
Westbrook
have
is.
Russell Westbrook out there. You mentioned Magic Johnson.